While on a call with her sister, she said, "If he proposes with anything under 3 carats, I'm saying no on the spot." She didn't know I was in the hallway. I returned the ring that afternoon. She found the receipt, not the diamond. I'm 31 and just dodged the biggest bullet of my life. My girlfriend of 3 years thinks she's about to get a massive diamond ring, but she's actually about to discover I returned it after learning her true priorities. Been dating Lauren for 3 years, living together for the past year. She's 28, works as a marketing coordinator, seemed like a normal girl with reasonable expectations. I'm an accountant at a regional firm, make decent money around $75K a year. Things had been going well between us. We talked about marriage, kids, future plans, normal relationship progression stuff. I'd been planning to propose for the past few months and had been saving up for a ring. The thing about Lauren is she's always been a little image conscious. Not over the top, but she cares about what people think. Designer handbags that she saves up for, nice clothes, keeping up appearances on social media. I chalked it up to her working in marketing, where image matters. Last month, I finally bought an engagement ring. Beautiful 1.5 carat diamond, white gold setting, cost me about $9 grand. That's basically 3 months of my take-home pay after taxes and expenses, but I figured Lauren was worth the investment. The ring was perfect, classic solitaire setting, good quality diamond, exactly the style Lauren had mentioned liking when we browsed jewelry stores. The jeweler said it was an excellent choice for someone who appreciates classic elegance. I was planning to propose this weekend. Had reservations at her favorite restaurant, whole romantic setup planned. The ring was hidden in my closet waiting for the perfect moment. Tuesday afternoon, I came home from work early to finalize the proposal plans. Lauren was in the living room on a video call with her sister Emma, who lives in California. I went to the kitchen to grab something to drink and could hear their conversation clearly. Lauren talks loudly on video calls and our apartment isn't that big. What I heard made me question everything I thought I knew about her. Mark's been acting all secretive lately. I think he's finally going to propose this weekend. Oh my God, really? Are you excited? Have you seen the ring? No, but Emma, I need to tell you something. I've been doing research on engagement rings and I have standards now. If he proposes with anything under 3 carats, I'm saying no on the spot. 3 carats? Lauren, that's like a $25,000 ring. Mark's not rich. I know what they cost, but I've been with him for 3 years. I've been the perfect girlfriend. I deserve a ring that shows he's serious about investing in our future. But what if he spent a lot on a smaller ring? Like what if it's really beautiful but just not huge? Then he didn't do enough research. Emma, I've been looking at rings online for months. All my coworkers have at least 2 carats. I can't show up to work with some tiny chip that makes me look like he got it on sale. That seems kind of harsh. What if he can't afford a 3-carat ring? Then he needs to wait until he can, or get a loan. If he really wants to marry me, he'll figure it out. I'm not accepting anything embarrassing. I stood in that kitchen for another 10 minutes, listening to Lauren explain her engagement ring standards to her sister. How she'd researched average sizes, how she'd be humiliated by anything small, how she'd tell me to try again if the ring didn't meet her requirements. The worst part was when Emma asked what she'd do if I proposed with a smaller ring publicly. I'd have to say yes in the moment to avoid embarrassing him, but then I'd tell him privately that we need to exchange it for something appropriate before we announce the engagement. My 1.5 carat ring suddenly felt like a complete joke. According to Lauren, my $9,000 investment was an embarrassing chip that would require a do-over before she'd even announce our engagement. I quietly went back to my room and looked at the ring box in my closet. Beautiful ring, perfect for someone who would appreciate the thought and financial sacrifice behind it. Wrong for someone who saw engagement rings as status competitions with coworkers. I made a decision that saved my future. I called the jewelry store and asked about their return policy. Since I'd bought it less than 30 days ago and hadn't had it sized or engraved, they said I could return it for store credit minus a 10% restocking fee. I drove there Wednesday morning and returned the ring. Got about $8,100 in store credit, which I immediately cashed out for a refund check. But instead of telling Lauren what I'd overheard, I decided to let her reveal her priorities herself. I kept the return receipt and put it in the ring box where the diamond used to be. That evening, Lauren was acting extra sweet, probably thinking her dream proposal was coming soon. She kept making comments about how special this weekend was going to be and how she couldn't wait to start planning our future. I played along, letting her think everything was going according to her plan. Friday night, I'm going to propose exactly as planned. Romantic dinner, down on one knee, the whole setup she's expecting. Except instead of a 3-carat ring, she's going to get a receipt showing I returned the ring after learning her true standards. Lauren's about to discover that material demands have consequences. She wanted a ring that showed how much I valued her. The receipt will show exactly how much I value someone who would reject a proposal based on carat size. Update 1. 4 days later. 4 days since the proposal, and Lauren's still trying to convince people that her ring size requirements were reasonable expectations. The receipt reveal went exactly as I'd hoped. Friday night started perfectly. Lauren got dressed up for what she thought would be her dream proposal. She spent extra time on her makeup and kept checking herself in mirrors. We went to her favorite restaurant as planned. Lauren was practically glowing with anticipation, making comments about how perfect the evening was and how she'd remembered this night forever. After dinner, I suggested we walk to the nearby park. There's a gazebo with nice lighting that I'd picked for the proposal spot. Lauren was clearly excited but trying to play it cool. She kept positioning herself in good angles and making sure her phone was ready. At 8:30, I got down on one knee in front of the gazebo. Lauren's face lit up with pure joy. "Lauren, I love you, and I've been planning to ask you to marry me tonight." She was already extending her hand toward me, smiling bigger than I'd ever seen. "But Tuesday, I overheard your conversation with Emma about engagement ring requirements." Her smile flickered slightly, but she was still expecting a ring box. "You said you'd reject any proposal with a ring under 3 carats, and that anything smaller would be embarrassing." Now she looked confused and slightly worried. "So I returned the ring I bought you. This is what you get instead." I opened the ring box to reveal the receipt from the jewelry store showing the returned 1.5 carat diamond engagement ring. Lauren stared at the receipt for about 10 seconds, then looked back at me with complete shock. "You're joking. This is some kind of test, right?" "No test. You made it clear that my ring wouldn't meet your standards, so I returned it rather than face your rejection." "Mark, I was just talking to my sister. I didn't mean I'd actually reject you. You said you'd say no on the spot to anything under 3 carats. You said you'd make me exchange it before announcing our engagement. I was just fantasizing about having a big ring. Every girl does that." "You spent 15 minutes explaining your minimum requirements and how you'd researched average ring sizes. That wasn't fantasizing." She started crying then. "Please don't do this. I love you. I would have said yes to any ring." "Really? Because you told Emma you'd have to say yes publicly to avoid embarrassing me, then make me exchange it privately." A few people in the park had noticed the commotion, but I kept my voice calm and quiet. "Can we please go home and talk about this privately? There's nothing to talk about. You've made your standards clear. I hope you find someone who can afford to meet them." I stood up and walked back to my car, leaving Lauren in the park with the receipt. Got home to find several missed calls from Lauren. Then Emma called from California, clearly having heard Lauren's version of events. Saturday morning, Lauren showed up at my apartment looking like she hadn't slept. "Mark, please let me explain. I was being stupid and materialistic with Emma. I don't actually care about ring size. You cared enough to research average carat sizes and set minimum requirements. I was just caught up in wedding planning excitement. I would have been thrilled with whatever ring you picked. Except you literally said you'd make me exchange anything under 3 carats before announcing our engagement." She couldn't argue with that, since those were her exact words. "What can I do to fix this? I'll never mention ring size again." "There's nothing to fix. You revealed your true priorities and I made my decision based on that information. She spent 2 hours trying to convince me that her demands were just girl talk, and that I should judge her by her actions, not her private conversations. But her private conversation revealed what she really thought about my financial sacrifice and what she considered acceptable. Sunday, Lauren's mom called, asking me to reconsider because Lauren had learned her lesson about materialism. I explained that someone who sets 3-carat minimum requirements and researches ring sizes to compete with coworkers has values that don't align with mine. She's young and got caught up in social pressure. Don't throw away 3 years over one conversation. That one conversation revealed 3 years of hidden expectations. Better to know now than after the wedding. Lauren sent me several long texts over the weekend, apologizing and promising she'd changed her perspective on material things. I didn't respond. Someone who thinks a 1.5-carat diamond is embarrassingly small isn't someone I want to build a life with. 3 weeks since the receipt proposal, and Lauren's attempts to undo her materialistic demands have been predictably unsuccessful. Actions based on genuine values don't change overnight. The story spread through our friend group gradually. A few people who knew about our relationship asked what happened, and I explained that we had incompatible values about money and priorities. I didn't share the specific details about ring size requirements, but Lauren apparently told several friends her version, which included her minimum carat standards. Most people's reaction was surprise that Lauren had such specific and expensive demands. Several mutual friends mentioned they'd noticed her competitive attitude about material things, but hadn't realized how extreme it was. Her attempts at damage control weren't very effective because the requirements were too specific and unreasonable to explain away as casual comments. 2 weeks ago, Lauren's best friend called me asking if I'd consider giving Lauren another chance. She knows she messed up with the ring thing. She's been really upset about losing you over something she now realizes was stupid. If it was stupid, why did she spend 15 minutes explaining her research and minimum requirements? She got caught up in social media and coworker competition. She realizes now that ring size doesn't matter. She realizes that her ring size demands cost her the relationship. That's different than genuinely not caring about material things. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't you think 3 years together is worth a second chance? 3 years where she was apparently researching engagement ring standards and planning to reject proposals that didn't meet them. Lauren's friend couldn't really argue with that logic. Last week I heard through mutual friends that Lauren had been asking people whether they thought I'd overreacted to her comments. The responses were mixed, but most people agreed that setting specific carat requirements was problematic. Especially the part about making me exchange a ring before announcing the engagement. A few people thought I should have just ignored her comments and proposed anyway. But most understood that overheard expectations change the entire dynamic of a proposal. This week, Lauren tried reaching out directly with a different approach. She sent me an article about couples who overcame materialistic differences and a message saying she'd been doing a lot of thinking about what really matters. But the damage was done. I'd heard her genuine reaction to the idea of a smaller ring, and it was complete rejection, followed by plans to make me upgrade it. Someone who researches average ring sizes and sets 3-carat minimums isn't someone who would suddenly be satisfied with modest jewelry just because they got caught revealing their standards. Yesterday, Emma called me from California, making one final attempt at reconciliation. Lauren's learned her lesson about focusing on material things. She knows she was wrong to care so much about ring size. She's learned that expressing material demands has consequences. That's different than actually changing her values. What if she proved she'd changed? What if she offered to help pay for the ring or chose something smaller? Emma, she didn't just want a big ring. She researched standards, set requirements, and planned to reject anything that didn't meet them. That level of materialism doesn't change overnight. People can change their priorities when they realize what they're losing. People can change their behavior to avoid consequences. Changing actual values takes much longer. Emma couldn't argue with that distinction. Today, I heard Lauren's been more careful about what she says around friends, probably realizing that private conversations aren't always private. She's also apparently stopped talking about engagement rings and wedding planning with her social circle. But I heard what she said when she thought no one was listening. That conversation revealed her true priorities when she felt safe being honest. The receipt sits in my desk as a reminder that I made the right choice. $9,000 saved plus whatever future material demands would have followed. Final update, 2 months later. 2 months since the receipt proposal, and this story has reached its natural conclusion. Lauren learned that private conversations have consequences, and I learned the value of understanding someone's real priorities before making major commitments. The story became a talking point in our social circle about the importance of compatible values in relationships. Several people mentioned it made them think more carefully about their own material expectations and priorities. Lauren's reputation took some damage, but mostly just with people who knew the specific details. Her general social circle moved on to other topics after a few weeks. 6 weeks ago, she started dating someone new, a guy who works in pharmaceutical sales and apparently makes significantly more money than I do. Good for her. She found someone who can probably afford to meet her research-based ring requirements. A month ago, I started dating someone new myself. She knows the whole story, and her reaction was perfect. Anyone who would research engagement ring standards and set minimum requirements is focused on the wrong things. This woman gets excited about weekend hiking trips and cooking experiments. She's more interested in shared experiences than expensive purchases. 3 weeks ago, Lauren sent me one final message. I know I can't change what I said, but I want you to know I understand now that I was focused on the wrong things. I hope you find someone who appreciates you. I didn't respond, but I appreciated the acknowledgement. The receipt proposal wasn't about punishing Lauren for having preferences. It was about showing her the logical result of her stated requirements. She wanted a ring that demonstrated my financial commitment to her based on her research and standards. The receipt demonstrated exactly how much I was willing to commit to someone who approached engagement rings like a business transaction. Lauren learned that conversations overheard from the next room aren't actually private. She also learned that expressing material demands can have immediate relationship consequences. I learned that paying attention to what people say when they think they're being honest gives you valuable insight into their actual values and priorities. The 1.5 carat ring would have been beautiful on someone who appreciated the thought and financial sacrifice behind it. It was completely wrong for someone who had researched standards and would be embarrassed by anything small. Lauren wanted a partner who would meet her researched minimum requirements for engagement rings. She's free to find someone who shares those financial priorities. I wanted a partner who would be excited about marrying me regardless of material considerations. I found exactly that. The engagement ring industry lost a $9,000 sale, but I gained clarity about compatibility and values. Everyone got exactly what they prioritized. Lauren prioritized ring size research and minimum carat requirements. She's dating someone who can probably afford those standards. I prioritized genuine compatibility over material expectations. I found someone who shares my values about money and relationships. The receipt was just a way of showing Lauren that I'd heard her message clearly and understood her priorities perfectly. She wanted a proposal that met her research standards. I gave her exactly that. A proposal that perfectly reflected her stated requirements. The only problem was that her requirements and my values were completely incompatible. Better to discover that before spending $25,000 on a ring than after.